What's going on, family? Welcome to another episode of the Chip Off the Old Block podcast. I'm your host, CJ Matthews, here with...
me. Notorious Dr. CJ Matthews the first. How y'all doing today?
We need to get that sound effect, that notorious. I'm gonna make sure we add that next time. No, but how you feeling today, Dad?
Doing pretty good. Start off the day a little slow today. Picking up speed as we go. Maybe not picking up speed. Maybe not. Maybe, I only have one speed. People be saying, hurry up. I say, good.
Yeah.
I used to hurry up. I think I did. I don't remember.
That's good, though, man. Good week so far. Lot going on.
Lot going on. Man. Woo. That's why these podcasts are so refreshing, because it's just always so much going on.
Yeah, 100%. And I guess we can start right here. So as literally right after we got done recording, I'm not sure, maybe it was a day, maybe it was a couple of days, but within the past couple of days of the last time we recorded, the NBA made an announcement.
Oh, yeah.
And it was major. And basically, for anybody who doesn't know, they came out and announced that in this upcoming season, the 2021 season, they won't be testing the players for marijuana.
Right.
And that's major. That's a major move. But hold on, before we even get into it, let me tell you. So basically what happened was the NBA, so they make the announcement about that. And then naturally you would think that the NBA is what would start to trend. But you know what actually started trending? Or should I say who started trending? J.R. Smith. I thought that was kind of messed up. They always try to throw him under the bus for all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, J.R. was one of the coolest dudes. It's amazing in this country when you get on the wrong side of the media and you're African American, how you can just stay under the bus. They never let you out from under it.
No, it's funny though, because like in any organization, whether it's college or whatever, just certain people got those reputations.
Right.
I was a part of that group at one time, so But no, it's really interesting. It's really powerful, just because, on one hand, I feel like, and I believe strongly that was a way to, I don't know if you would call that marginalize a group, but marginalize a particular group. And it's not that I'm up here trying to say, smoke weed, everybody smoke, I'm not up here on my Snoop and Nate Dogg, but what it does is it's more honest in its approach. It's less hypocritical, as far as how that thing shakes out. And I think that, as far as Adam Silver and the entire league goes, that was a powerful statement and a powerful move to make.
Oh, absolutely. And again, I've been an advocate for years for the legalization, simply because, having worked with the criminal justice system, having been a foreman of a grand jury, and just to see how this particular thing, and if it wasn't against the law, recreational form of entertainment, as alcohol and beer and those things are,
right,
was always criminalized more, simply because of our use of it, African Americans' use of it, even though we still don't make up the whole weed population.
Not even close, honestly. Not even close.
But again, it goes back to the criminal justice system. It goes back to the arresting officer, because, a lot is determined at that first point of contact.
Oh, 100%. They have so much power.
Right.
Right. And it also speaks to kind of like the temperature or the temperament of the country, because different narratives are given, or different narratives are portrayed throughout the media and throughout mass media and movies and TV, and in a lot of ways those narratives shape the the thought process of the country, of the nation,
Right.
and kind of like, maybe it's unfortunate that it's this way, but as kind of the narrative shifts, then people are looked at differently.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, it goes back to the American people. And every time I see someone stand up and talk for the American people or about the American people or what the American people want, I just want them to remember I'm an American.
Yeah, 100%.
And they don't speak for me.
Right.
And based on the last election, they don't speak for the country.
Yeah.
And we know that one of the reasons why the conservative movement tries to reduce the number of people voting is because the country's not conservative.
Yeah, 100%. And that kind of makes me think about this thought. And this was almost 10 years ago. I was in the ethics class, and we was having a conversation about this particular topic of philosophy, some brand of philosophy or ethics. I actually enjoyed the class because I enjoyed the professor. But when the conversation came up, it brought me to something that I was watching. And, that goes beyond this particular subject. But basically, whenever you have an issue and maybe 50% of the country or 51% of the country feel this way and 50% of the country feel, opposite, and you have laws basically saying that, well, 50% of the people believe that this thing is right and 50% of the people that believe this is wrong.
Right.
You can't have policy that says that 50% of Americans should be in jail or 50% of Americans are criminal based on something. Anytime that you have any sort of policy that reflects that, then clearly the policy isn't reflective of the American people.
Oh, no. It's and again, because the American people, the pawns have power on the chessboard.
100%. I've been watching Queen's Gambit. So.
But we're not even pawns.
Right.
Okay. And that's why, again, voting is so important. And I pray that everybody in Atlanta is voting and the rest of us are at least sending a few dollars. I know it's holidays and whatever, it's a pandemic, but send $1.
Yeah.
Send $1, send $2, send $5, send 10. But the challenge is consistently going to be these battles, but again, it seems like the NBA is always more progressive than the other sports franchises.
Yeah, by far, kind of.
Yeah, and maybe because of their commissioners,
Yeah, and I feel like it's reflective of most industries and most organizations. It's top down, so it's just kind of reflective of and it even goes to the owners,
right?
And maybe just an understanding of who we are and where we are, and I can appreciate that kind of forward step, that kind of forward thinking.
Well, I mean, some people would like to maintain a certain America.
Well,
and it doesn't matter what time period they go in to me.
Yeah.
From 1876 or 1619 until 2020, doesn't matter which period they want to go into, we've still been disenfranchised.
Yeah.
All right. But to try to maintain the America that a certain small group of people want to maintain is not who this nation is.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of the Constitution. It's big enough, just like I always say when I'm preaching, how the earth is big enough. God made the earth big enough for all of its inhabitants.
Right.
And a space for all of its inhabitants.
Right.
It's only when greed and wickedness and those things come into play that you'll have people evicted from their homes.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's the same way with the Constitution. It's big enough for everybody.
Right.
But if you are able to create safe districts so you don't have to govern, safe districts so you don't have to be nonpartisan and create opportunities for everybody, then fortunately for some groups, they can rule the way they want to rule, and we've seen that. the last few decades, more and more and more. And what we're seeing now is the maturity of that kind of political indolence, political fascism, political just really horrible things, you know. But the good thing is that the country is moving. I think 7 or 8 more states, 6 or 7 more states legalize marijuana.
Yeah, I don't have a map pulled up, but the other day I was looking at a map, and there's literally like only a handful where it's completely illegal.
Right.
You know, almost all of the states at least have it for medicinal purposes.
Right. Well, that's the hypocrisy of Ohio. You know, for years we fought against gambling.
Yeah.
When the economics got right, bam! All of a sudden, the same people that had been the allies and fighting against gambling was saying, well, now we should have it. Okay?
Yeah.
It was really funny because
I mean, they already had the lottery.
ooh, that's the hypocrisy.
Right.
Okay, that was the hypocrisy. Same thing with medical marijuana. They're approving medical marijuana as a start. They're lining up the people who are going to own these things. And that's what it's going to always be about: ownership, power, and money.
Oh, yeah. That's the American way.
You know, so it's really interesting, but they're moving in the right direction. You know, I've always told people it's not their business if I smoke pot or not, but if it's legalized, no, I better protect our members about my witness. Amen. I don't drink beer or whiskey either.
Right. Yeah.
I look at all the hypocrites sitting up drinking beer and alcohol drunk, you know, and then going to hate on folk because they smoke some marijuana. It's the most, and it's the only reason because but it's illegal. Yeah, why is it? Why was whiskey illegal? And then when prohibition came, so I mean, it's time for prohibition. It's time. It's just time. And America's ready for it. America wants it. Got a bunch of old, never mind. People who just, you know, are really, really not for anything that can empower minority people.
Right.
You know, and not the minorities make up the most people who smoke marijuana. It's just not the case. Proportionately, there's no thing in this country where we make up the most.
Yeah, 100%. But once again, the narrative is always shaped in such a way.
Well, because again, whether it's that responding officer, whether it's that supervisor, whether it's that owner of the company, John White boy or John Caucasian person who's busted gets a pass, maybe not. He may not get a pass either.
Right.
But he will more than likely get a pass.
And there's the opportunity for the pass.
At least the opportunity exists for the pass.
Right.
Simply based on the color of skin.
Yeah.
And the person's perceptions about African Americans.
Yeah, and
so they've got only stereotypical,
right,
perceptions.
Right, and that's you know, not at all to justify anything, but that's like the dangerous and tricky part of it all, because and I don't want to say in a lot of cases, but in some cases, you know, my only dealing with a group of people, my only understanding, my only information is from what I'm watching on TV, is what I'm hearing. I've had no experience with this kind of person. So obviously I'm going to have some preconceived notions, but it's not based on anything. It's not based on any kind of facts. It's only based on what they telling me. Right. And that's the unfortunate part. Now, I'm not saying like that's the majority at all. That may be the small, you know, instances, but sometimes that's true in anything. But, you know, law enforcement in particular, though, it has to be a higher standard. I was just rewatching, I think Chris Rock's most recent stand-up special, and he addresses this issue. And he was basically saying how, like, you know, this whole few bad apple narrative he's like, that's a really nice word for a murderer. And then he was saying how, like, you know, it's a tough job and yeah, they should get paid more, but certain jobs, certain industries, you know, we just can't have that. It's just like, you know, if Southwest or American Airlines, like, 90% of our pilots get you there safely. But there's just a few who you know, it's really that that was an interesting comparison, but it's true.
Right, absolutely. And you know my perception that I don't believe there's such thing as good cops and bad cops. All the police officers, all the law enforcement officers I know are great people.
Right. It's the system.
Well, no, it's a good act or a bad act.
Oh.
See, we get judged on our behavior. They get judged on a code and a system of what the system is.
Yeah, right, the system.
Not what the individual does. So
yeah,
if an individual like in Columbus,
man,
the last few days, shoot someone in the back, and it's the wrong person. That person just murdered somebody. That was murder. And
murder.
That shouldn't be distributed to all law enforcement people. That should be distributed to the officer who fired the shot. And he should be tried for murder.
Yeah, 100%.
Because I would hope and pray that at this level of information and training and technology, and that's within a 6-month period between Breonna Taylor's murder and this young man's murder. A little different set of circumstances, but still wrong place. That's the thing that makes them consistent. But each time the officers had the wrong people.
That's just unacceptable.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm saying, given today's technology, information exchange, when it comes to that type of activity, we need to be better informed and better prepared. And I can't believe they're not. So I believe that because of a lack of accountability, no accountability, and under this current administration, it's just, I just say it like this, open season again.
I mean, there just has to be an example made. Like, that's the most egregious act. Like,
and 2/3 of the states have medical marijuana, and 15 states have cannabis legalized.
Yeah,
2/3.
I had this map. I don't got it no more.
Yeah, it looks the map is.
It was just like a couple, like Idaho, stuff like that. I don't remember it particularly.
Right. But I like what the one, and I don't know anything about him, and I just had read this the other day, and that's why I pulled this back up, because the one Republican co-sponsor, and his name is Matt Gaetz, he said this: I am here as the only Republican co-sponsor of the MORE Act, and I am voting for it because the federal government has lied to the people of this country about marijuana for a generation, he said. We have been a generation, we have seen a generation, particularly of black and brown youth, locked up for offenses that should not have resulted in any incarceration whatsoever. I am also deeply troubled that the current policy of the federal government inhibits research into cannabis, research that could unlock cures and help people live better lives. My Republican colleagues today will make a number of arguments against this bill, but those arguments are overwhelmingly losing with the American people. So I think that, you'll see major changes in your lifetime. I'd like to see the next step in mine. Again, the McConnell and them probably won't take it up. And so it would be another policy, potential policy laying on his desk, along with the voting rights bill, the John Lewis bill, along with the criminal justice reform bill, and on and on and on, because, he's in a safe district in Kentucky and he doesn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
But, and for my friends who don't believe in racism, it's very easy to say to a cancer patient, I'm praying for you. But now, if we had the power to lay hands on them and heal them, I'm sure that would be better. And so when people deny racism that I know that are Christians, but they tell me they're praying for me, they're not in that position. They have the power to help change these policies.
Yeah.
And in the name of conservative, liberal Christianity, which I don't know what kind of Christianity, I think it was the Rick James version again.
Rick James version.
But I know it was a James version, but I just don't know which James, because I've read for years only the King James. You know, I was a King James only person for a long time, and then I got the New King James, and then, you know, I began to read other translations as I learned the text for myself, Greek, Hebrew, and Arabic, and other things. But it's just interesting, you know.
Yeah.
But I think the NBA gets it right. You know,
yeah,
and,
it seems like a step that the NFL would be a whole generation.
Well, the NFL is different. The NFL is a plantation.
Yeah,
you know, it's a big difference in the mentality. It's a big difference in the player contracts. Though I think the Colin Kaepernick thing and the whole George Floyd thing and the shifts they made were made in the right direction. Now the business moves, that's going to take something totally different. But they've always operated as a plantation, whether they like to admit it or not.
Yeah. Even that, though, is just like, and obviously, you know, thank God for progress, advancement. And, you know, you can only take something at face value. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't know the motive behind what the moves or whatever. And, you know, that's not up for me to decide or determine. But it's just like, even within that, the timetable is like right here. No. Now this thing is shifting.
Well, think about it like this, okay? And this is what always has bothered me. We have a criminal justice system which is already geared toward negative for African Americans, especially African-American males. There's every study affirms that people who deny it are just living in a box because they just either are racist or they don't want to accept the fact that some of our things are flawed in this nation. I don't know how they can know God and not understand that, given how we are all flawed. But the law will say you're not guilty. The law will say that, you know, you did nothing wrong, and then you get a 6-game suspension. So you get tried twice.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, on things that I've just never understood, and it's always perplexed me. But again, I'm not the one signing the check or receiving the check, so my evaluation is from a very personal view. In my view, is how I see it, and have always seen it. You know, even 50 years ago when I aspired to be there myself.
Yeah, but even you know, as you mentioned the criminal justice system and kind of America, it's unfortunate, and I'm kind of working this out right now as I talk, so I'm freestyling a little bit, so bear with me. But it's like, you know, obviously we know that the criminal justice system is big business. The prison industrial complex is big business, right? And it's like, okay, on one hand, historically, you have slavery. And then in that case, you're property. But now you're two things. You're like a widget. You're like, you know what I'm saying, in the prison industrial complex, which you know equals money. Or we've codified the nation to the point where you're generating my income based on not being able to conform to this. You know what I'm saying? Like,
you might be freestyling, but you're styling.
And it's like, you know, that's crazy to think. It's like, okay, we have taxes, so everybody got to pay to help, whatever. And that's not a whole nother conversation, but I don't want to get into that. But beyond that, we have it written up. We have it worked out till you're basically income. And I can't think of the word that I would call it, but you're driving this business. You're the machine that's driving this. It's like, it's like self-perpetuating. We have all of this in place. And the only way that it can stay in place is if we keep charging you.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's like, come on, man.
See, what happened to the privatization of prisons, and it's still in the atmosphere, it hasn't happened yet. And one of the reasons why it hadn't happened is because bed count. All right. In order to guarantee the money that it would take to privatize it, you got to have, I used to know the formulas, but more than a 90-something% bed count. So if we're in charge of the system or the apparatus that fills the beds, then it's in our best interest to make sure that we're getting our money's worth.
Yeah, and even on a lower level than that, speeding ticket, this ticket, this court call. It's like
Well, just think about the smaller cities, what that revenue means to them.
And it's like, come on now.
See, when we grew up, we see different than y'all. When we grew up, we just knew where not to go.
Yeah.
So it was a boundary almost, because we knew that if we went in that city, not that we'd always get a ticket. Now, I didn't get the ticket because my father made sure that all my lights worked and everything worked on my car, okay?
Yeah, but, I mean, I know this ain't just TV, but they'll break it. They'll mess it up.
Oh, no, trust me, all right? And so, I mean, I got some stories, okay? All right? And I wasn't doing anything wrong, and it's just when I was dating your mother, all right, from where I lived to where she lived, if I went, I'll say it like this, if I went through the hood, it was no issues.
Right.
But sometimes I would want to ride across a main street and it went through several suburbs. All right? Okay? And why I would ride across that street sometimes was just depending on where I was coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I can guarantee you, if it was 4 suburbs, I got stopped at least once or twice. All right? Because of the kind of car I had. Okay? And it was just interesting, and I for me it had become, because they weren't killing us then in that setting like they are now. So I thank God for that. But it became like, a something, because they always want to know how I got the car.
Right.
They always want to know whose it was.
Yeah.
And I always had license, insurance, and all the stuff you were supposed to have.
Right.
And I used to like to say, my daddy bought it.
Yeah, and I thank God.
He ain't bad. I was lying.
I thank God. In that regard, I've been shielded. I ain't gonna say what. You know what I'm talking about. I've been shielded. I've been protected. I've had a hedge of protection in that regard, in a lot of senses. But just recent. I'm still turn. Like, this is the city I live in that we pay taxes in, and it's still, oh no, what you doing? Where you going? Like, come on.
Yep.
That I grew up in.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, again, I think the joy is that God has a way of doing some things, and for such a time as this, I think the awakening that is occurring across the country in the younger people, Black Lives Matter and all the new organizations that are springing up, I think that's powerful, because I don't see this generation resting.
No, and not to take away from the point, but let me just say this. As a member of this generation, there is no rest. But sometimes, like, okay, so you just gotta know how to navigate and maneuver. You gotta know how to pick your battles, I'll say. Because it could be something real small, and this ain't the moment to be Martin Luther King. Let's just go home. Let's make it home. And I've been in situations where, like, no, this is like, whoa, it's not that serious. Let's show our ID and let's go home.
Yeah. I did a class. I'm not gonna name the school, and all these students were super intelligent. I mean, super intelligent.
Yeah.
And I was just glad to be in their midst. And I took a friend of mine who's a law enforcement expert out with me, and we were sharing with them how to get pulled over and things like that.
Right.
And man, they was coming at me as if to say, "You crazy." We got rights. We got this. We got that. And I say, you do. But there's a moment when you want to live to fight that battle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and maybe that mentality is why you guys still have to fight. I was not necessarily one to kowtow to some degree, but I knew in that private moment when it was just me and somebody with a gun, I wanted to go home.
No. And I could tell you the exact moment that it shifted for me. Now, prayerfully, it's been years since I've had any sort of interaction with law enforcement, right or wrong. But there was a specific shift because for the longest time, and I don't know, maybe it was just my youthfulness, maybe a little cockiness, but particularly in an instance where I know I'm not wrong, where maybe I let them have it a little too much, where, you know, this thing really is not what you think it is. But for whatever reason, I was ignorant to that fact. And I was like, oh, like, I remember this one time, and, you know, whatever, we on a podcast, so let's talk. I was in the car, I was in my truck, and I was somewhere on the side of town that I don't really be on. But I'm just in there and I'm chilling. I'm at an apartment complex. I'm waiting for some people or whatever. And next thing I know, like 5 cars pull up. And they're like, well, you know, we've been having break-ins in this area, or like carjack. And I'm like, do you see what we in? Like, I let them have it. The people that was with me was like, oh my God, CJ, you're crazy and you're tripping. Now fast forward, you know, and and you know, all, you know, respect to, but some of those national situations had happened. And, you know, I had an interaction with law enforcement in the wake of one of those. I ain't gonna mention it because I don't want to disrespect the name. But it was my response was a little different. Like, wait a minute, whether I'm right or wrong, this ain't the time to figure that out. Let's let's keep it moving.
And again, you know, those are important father and son conversations. You know, that conversation I had with my father, it wasn't a tutorial.
No, yeah, it wasn't. What would you say? It wasn't a suggestion.
Yeah, my father. By him being military, though, that's how he approached things.
Right.
Loving father, tremendous father, great dad, but military.
Yeah.
Okay. That's why I get pissed off. Another reason when they act like no blacks, African Americans, been in the military. We've been in the military ever since they had a military.
Yeah.
Okay. And so
it was black folks fighting on both sides.
Yeah, oh, come on, man, always. But anyway, that's just, and again, that, you know, that's a whole nother podcast on, you know, and that's why there's this pushback, you know, from the current administration or the going to be the most immediate past administration on retelling American history, because they've been lying for 200 years.
At least.
And people, people can read now.
Yeah.
It's just, that's probably a reason why they didn't want us to know how to read. People can
100%.
read and do research, and Native Americans. It's just so let's not try to whitewash. That's a good word, whitewash. Let's not try to whitewash things or redact and redo. Let's just look at this thing for what it's worth. Thank God that we're all still here, and then develop a place that all of our children and grandchildren, great-grandchildren, the next several generations can flourish.
Right. And that's always my question, because, back to this whole system update required conversation that we've been having, it's been kind of ongoing. And obviously most people would say no, but my question is always, well, we have all of this history, all of these things have happened. Okay. There's been progression in a lot of regards. In some regards, there needs a lot more, movement forward. But it's just like we're building on some ideas, some principles, some documents, some governing documents that, in context, when you consider them in the context in which they were written, right, not what we're saying they are for, because we know that that's bull, right?
Right.
But it's like, you know, obviously most people not gonna go for it, but in so many regards, it's like, no, this is where, you know, I don't know. I guess that's the only thing that could bring something like that is like a revolution, but maybe not. Maybe there doesn't have to be like a blood. I don't know.
Well, I mean, you know, a certain portion of this country was born out of a civil war. And I think some people don't like to lose. I think some people don't know how to win. But I think that the potential is still far greater than any of our weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
We do have major flaws, and race is one of those flaws. And if each generation of conscious Americans, and I wish it could be the church, but they've proven it can't be them, of conscious Americans would move it forward and further away from those things that make it hard for somebody,
Mm-hmm.
some group, to be a part of our country. And that's an ideal, you know, and I'll never leave away from that because I think Christ calls us to community.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's real simple when he was interacting with the lawyer and talking about the commandments. And he said, well, you know, I can sum it up for you. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your mind, all your soul,
Mm-hmm.
and your neighbor as yourself. So I think that, you know, there was an opportunity for community.
Yeah.
There was God, there was the individual, then there was his or her neighbor.
Right.
King defined it as the beloved community.
Yeah.
So I do believe that we can get there. You know, I've spent a portion of my life in my own little way trying to promote that from the Christ standpoint, and then philosophically and evidentially or in the natural through the beloved community. Certainly there'll be wickedness and there'll be evil as long as Satan is still able to do things he does before eschatology and the end times come and Christ wraps this thing up.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I believe. So I would always work toward that and work for that.
Yeah. And yeah, 100%. I'm just saying, like, and maybe this is too idealistic, but even just the symbolism of certain things, like the symbolism, and you know, just these certain principles or ideas that were laid down as kind of foundational were clearly untrue. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't be a slave owner and talk about life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, or all of these other foundational things. I like both things just cannot be true. So it's just, and maybe that's not as significant. It just is to me.
Well, and again, that's a good insight because that the spirit of that portion of the document and the spirit of the people who wrote it could write that with those other inconsistencies.
Well, based on the total fact that, well, you're not even a person to me. You know, so like, but if this set of people is not even a person to me when I'm writing people, like, that can't be what we stand on.
Right.
To me.
Oh, absolutely. And what I'm saying is that therein lies 400 years, 200 years, 100 years, 50 years now, your lifetime, 39, 67, years of struggle because of the fact that that spirit, that inconsistency,
Right,
is as alive today as it was the day before they wrote that.
So you saying so are you saying that there couldn't be a new document because the argument would be like, no, this is the foundation of everything that we stand for. But that's just an excuse for the real thing.
Well,
or both.
well,
Because it's like, in one hand, it's like, now to take an example, like, okay, churches historically are are organizations that sometimes honor tradition to a fault. And in a sense, like, America is doing the same thing, you know?
right. Well, yeah. But the difference is, both of us are hypocrites.
Yeah, no, I mean, and at the end of the day, that's what it comes on. Part of being a human is being inconsistent.
Right.
By nature, we're inconsistent.
Right.
But it shouldn't be to the detriment.
And maybe what some people would like to believe is they were not writing to what was, and they were writing to what could be.
I hear it, but no.
No. Okay. And
you want to know the best example of this? So, and it's subtle. I think most people missed it. And here go Chris Rock again. So if you ever watch Everybody Hates Chris, what each of the schools that he attends, the name of the school is like one of the families from Godfather. So he went to like Tatalia Middle School or high school. And it's the same thing. It's like Thomas Jefferson is on, like, it's like, these are our heroes. Like, what? Like, that's the biggest slap. That's one of the biggest slap in the face. And, you can say, oh, it's not that deep, but it is that deep.
Well, I mean, and for the first time in my lifetime, there seems to be a movement to deal with some of that in the taking down of these statues.
Yeah.
And even at the military school, change the name, take down the statue of Stonewall Jackson. Now, we always knew who he was and what he did, but they're removing the statues now. So maybe those.
Yeah, there is movement. Yeah, I'm not going to deny that.
Right.
I'm just saying.
Well, when you're oppressed, the movement is never enough or fast enough. That's number one. And certainly we can't argue with the timeline on racism because it seems like for some people it has moved, and for many more it's been moved back. So it's. But I think the thing that I love about today is the narrative by so many well-educated, seemingly well-motivated people to say, okay, we're going to look at this thing now, and we're going to shake it up, and we're going to keep shaking until we like the way it settles.
Yeah. No, and clearly there's, and maybe it's not clearly, it appears as if there are more in that side.
Right. Well, see, and I don't want to be I don't want to analyze history too much in the sense of the so-called black leader. Okay. All right. Because if we can kill him or her, we can kill the movement.
Yeah.
Or, and Dr. Otis Moss Jr., great man of God, tremendous educator, civil rights leader, pastor, teacher, just one of the significant minds left on this planet. But he taught us a class once on the bereavement of the movement and how post-King's death, people really didn't even know that, an entire nation of people could be in bereavement. And coming out of that without really mourning, that there were just certain things that occurred. And I've seen this nation recoil against black movement and black progress. But the difference now is is the amount of people with wealth who are saying, we are a part of this.
Right.
Okay. And so, I mean, that's probably the biggest difference now, because each period we came through, our economics was dependent upon someone who basically was a part of the oppressive system.
Mm-hmm.
So in order for there to be any real liberation, then you got to be free of their economics.
100%.
Okay. And so today you are seeing people who have built wealth, and regardless if it's tied to whatever, they can be independent enough that it will hurt the source more so or as much as them.
Right.
And so that's the position today where we find ourselves, because those people have a heart for community, many of them, and are benevolent. And see, what they can do is give a shield to those who are still vulnerable but have assets they can bring to the table, not by paying them, but by not exposing them. See, we got to kind of move away from this idea that everybody's got to kneel when Colin kneels.
Yeah.
Everybody doesn't have to kneel.
Yeah.
Okay? Because if that brother doesn't kneel or that sister doesn't kneel, but yet they bring a different value to the table. Now, me, you know me, I kneel. So it's in my, pardon me, it's in my spirit.
Right.
But for that brother who can't, what other asset can he bring?
Yeah.
You know, we don't need all black people to stand on one day and sing whatever we're going to sing.
Yeah.
But if those of us who sing, let's sing. Those of us who do this thing well for education for our children, those who have the entrepreneurial spirit to help us build businesses, those who have the ability to help us rebuild our neighborhoods by coming in with the crews we need to rebuild our houses, okay, and create home ownership programs. I mean, so the beauty of today is that there can be 1 million, 10 million, 100 million of us doing some things together, and we ain't never got to talk to each other or see each other. It's just that when those assignments are assigned based on strength, gift, and desire, then people have to flow in their lane and get it done.
Yeah.
And it can be coordinated through social media, through the big macro people who have that macro touch.
Right.
Okay? And you can't be mad at somebody because of where God has allowed them to be.
Yeah. 100%.
Jealousy, envy, and strife is foolishness. We can't afford, and I say it like this, we can't afford to have white people behaviors. Jealousy, envy,
Oh man.
political parties, and conservative, liberal. No, we can't afford none of that stuff. We have to be determined to live by a code of ethics and a code of behaviors that's going to keep us out of the criminal justice system, rescue us from the criminal justice system, and make sure that we eat and live and have opportunity and access to power and wealth.
Yeah, there was a line in the show, and that's exactly he said exactly that, and it was real powerful. But no, I agree 100%.
That ain't got nothing to do with white people.
No,
so they ain't get mad at me for saying that, but they ain't got nothing to do with them. See, I've never been against anybody. I just been for me and for us. I ain't got to be against them to win. I've learned that now. If they get in the way, they might have to, whatever. But I've never had to be against something to be for what I am. I never had to hate this for me to promote what I want to do and promote. And I know we're in a season where God is getting ready to do something so powerful that we're going to see changes. We're going to see dramatic, and it had nothing to do with President-elect Biden or President Trump going out. No. We just came through 4 years of a season for a purpose. We're getting ready to go into another season for a purpose.
No, I was just saying certain luxuries that.
Yeah, right. Now, again, we've learned over time, the more wealth you have, the more privilege you have.
100%.
Okay, and so that's undeniable. So I guess I've never allowed myself to be satisfied with where I am to the point that I could just look away from where so many other people are.
Yeah.
And so that's why I've enjoyed the assignment that God put on my life. And I've always chosen, if I have to choose, I'm going to choose fighting for, speaking for, working for the interests of black folk.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, and that I'm unapologetic when it comes to that. And I built enough relationships and bridges over the last 30 plus years with every group. I've worked with every group, every ethnic group you can name. I've worked with them to build bridges so that we could get to know each other. We can see what common opportunities are, maybe affect each other's thinking on certain things. People say, why you work with those Republicans? I said, well, because number one, they were in power at that time in our country, our state, or whatever. But number two was, as I get to know them and they get to know me, we can talk.
Yeah.
You know,
and we need to be able to, conversations have to be had.
Well, you know, and we're at an interesting point in our state, our region, and our city.
Yeah, there's it's a lot on the line.
A lot on the line. And there are going to be people going to be running for offices, and that's their right and go ahead. But some of us have to protect the assets.
Mm.
And we have limited black assets in this region.
Mm.
And some people probably don't even know what they are and can't define them. And so that's the first thing we have to do is just show the people what our assets are, because that begins leverage. Assets begins leverage.
Assets begin leverage.
Okay. And so if we understand what our assets are, we will fight to hold on to them.
Right.
Then we will leverage them to gain access to more assets and more opportunity. But if we just give them away like some people are trying to do in this region, it doesn't help us. It doesn't help the majority of us.
Right.
Because then we're at the goodwill of people. I don't want to be in nobody's goodwill. I don't mind being at Mount Sinai Friendship United, Connected Family Goodwill.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Because we live because of the love and the grace that God has put on our ministry. All right. But at the same time, I don't want to be beholden to anyone.
Yeah.
All right. And beholden to the point that they can mistreat my brother and my sister, and I can't say nothing. I never wanted to be in that position.
No, definitely don't want to be in that position. Yeah, so it's real interesting. And I guess this will probably be the most active. Well, maybe. No, maybe not. But
it's going to be a very active year.
I'm just talking about as far as my participation.
Oh,
you know, I mean, you know, so we're gonna see what that looks like, you know, but yeah. So
well, for me, based on everything that's happening with me, everything is going to be the least active I've been.
Well, I was just watching something yesterday, and according to LeBron, his prediction is that the movie theaters and everything will be back open on July when Space Jam 2 comes out. So I'm like, I don't know. Well, maybe he was just talking, but maybe he had some insight that we maybe he was privy to something we wasn't. So I'm like, you know, hopefully he's right.
He definitely privy to some stuff we not privy to. We know that for a fact. But and you know, we've been in several discussions the last few weeks on the vaccine with some trusted people, medical people we trust. You know, and so we can spend time talking about the inequities of the previous administration or how we got here.
Yeah.
Which is not me. Or we can spend time figuring out how do we live now and go forward.
How do we move forward
with this pandemic? So
yeah.
And that's going to be a big issue in our community is
the vaccine.
The vaccine.
So, man, it's funny that this call was like, how can I say? Because I'm the type of person, I've never had a flu shot. You know, and let me be honest, most of my apprehension, I guess if that's the word, is not necessarily based on any facts. My perception, let's just be honest, my distrust, it may be founded in just historical kind of like narratives, but maybe not necessarily facts, but I know, you know, I've never gotten a flu shot. You know, I was watching the news one day and there was this lady on there, she got the flu shot, and the craziest thing happened. It's like she couldn't walk right unless she was walking backwards. I was like, what is this? I'm not trying to make fun of her, but like if she was walking forward, like she couldn't walk right. If she was walking backwards, she could walk normal. And like this was a side effect of the flu shot. I said, oh, they ain't never putting that in me. Yeah, you know, at the time I'm an athlete and all that. I was like, man, you know, I could be sick for a few days. I could deal with that, but that I can't deal with it if avoidable. But this conversation. So I'm been a person like vaccine. Yeah, right. It's all these memes coming out. Every black person I follow on social media, buddy. Everybody's like they show all these little things like this what the first person gonna look like. They get the vaccine and all this. But then again, so you contrast all of this with this expert. Now this is an expert who's saying vaccine. I'm first in line. Like, so I'm like, man, I don't know.
Oh man,
his information has made me at least rethink or consider. You know.
Yeah, and that was not his intent though, and that's the beauty and the thing I love about his presentation. Is the fact he was not there to convince us.
Yeah, 100%.
He was only there to inform us.
Right.
And when you live it at the level he has, though,
yeah,
you know, his motives, you know, and coming out of the King philosophy, you know, where we try to purify ourselves and our motives and why we're doing what we're doing. But it's very empowering because I've had some real, and it wasn't based on science either. I know. I argue with my doctor every year.
Yeah.
You gonna take the flu shot? Nope. You're 65 now. Nope. You're 66 now.
Exactly.
And then this year, because of the pandemic, when it came time to go in, she's like, "We're doing virtual." I'm like, "Oh, good. I don't have to have an argument about the flu shot."
Yeah.
So
no, it's funny because you can like somebody could be saying something to make one point, but they're proving your point, which is opposite.
Absolutely. Well, you know your mama, and so because of your mama, I'm fairly healthy because we do all the immune stuff and we've been taking stuff for I don't know how long.
No, but there was some good information, and I'll share this. You know, I'll share my ignorance. That's all I often do. You know, because one of the things that when it comes to vaccines, one of the things that we always point to as a community is, well, what about Tuskegee? What about the Tuskegee trials or the Tuskegee experiment?
Right.
And the commonly held thought or belief is that these gentlemen who were a part of that were basically given syphilis.
Right.
And that's been what I've heard. That's been what people been telling me, and that's just been probably what I've been saying and what I've been thinking. But no, he debunked that myth. He says, actually, no. You know, there was what's the word for that? They're supposed to act in ethics. It was very unethical, but what actually happened is there were people who signed up for these trials. Now, obviously, these people had syphilis, and they were thinking that they were coming there to be treated. But that was a lie. They weren't there coming to be treated. They were basically coming to be studied so they could see how this thing is working, how this thing is progressing. Very unethical, but at the same time, very different from being injected with that thing.
But remember this. Any set of facts will have myths.
Right.
Potentially.
Yeah.
And it's in some people's best interest for the lies to be circulating.
And that's always my question.
Right.
Because I'm like, okay, there's clearly a huge level of distrust.
Oh, no.
But is this level of distrust like secretly like, and this is the conspiracy part of me, because this is like the conspiracy of the conspiracy. Is this level of distrust, is it imposed intentionally to keep you away from the good stuff? And I'm like, that could be. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's some truth to both. We know that when it comes to health disparities in this country, how we've been treated, and that's why the people who say, "Well, Obama didn't do nothing." Shut up, because he didn't pay your rent. You know, the Affordable Care Act was so powerful. It had nothing to do with African Americans because, again, disproportionately, yes, but the millions of people it affected were not African American.
No, 100%.
And that's why your congressional leadership, who tried to destroy it, grandfathered their people in before they did.
Right.
All their families on the Affordable Care Act.
Oh, that's what you've been saying this whole time.
Yeah.
I'm not. I've been misunderstanding that point the whole time. Basically,
I'm making every podcast.
Not every. You several times, but basically, you're saying their grandfather into that policy, like they have it now moving forward. You don't have access, but they're in. Right. In. Yeah. Okay, I got you.
They made sure that their staff and family and so on and so forth were okay.
Got you.
Okay. Because it's just. It was just something. It was an idea whose time had come. Mm. It was a plan and a process that was both vetted constitutionally. Mm-hmm. Okay, and it was effective. And I've said this repeatedly because we pay independently our health care, and we saved 50% of what we were paying. It was outrageous what we were paying. But the moment the Affordable Care Act came into place and we went online to do the research, man, we couldn't believe how much money we saved.
Right.
And we still had our doctors. Remember this, the buzzwords they use to lie about anything. Once they can create the buzz, then they can campaign it and run it out and scare people. They never, see, if you could really just sit down and inform people on something mm-hmm. versus scaring them in there. If you vote for Trump, it's going to be the end of the world. Well, if y'all vote for Biden, it's going to be the end of the world. Plus, any other world can be created. So the fear becomes bigger and bigger and bigger.
And that's a real thing, but very specifically, intentionally, succinctly. And this is why this whole social media during campaigning, this has been a whole thing. And maybe we could kind of dig into that in another episode. But like, kind of how this language goes out and the control, there is a level of control.
Oh no, I mean we know that for a fact. I mean, I don't think Mark Zuckerberg could have imagined the throes he's in and the responsibility he has now.
Yeah.
Okay, because he literally right now can determine if left unchecked, whether people like it or not, free speech.
Yeah. And I was just reading they got some antitrust stuff going on. But I'm like, if that was in their position, I'd be doing the same thing. They're basically saying all of these small companies that start to show promise, they basically spending money to freeze them out. Well, if you could do that, you would too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's where they're inconsistent because that's just capitalism at its best.
Yeah.
Whether we like it or not, I don't dislike certain things as much as if I'm fighting against something, it's to gain access or it is to end the practice of how it treats oppressed people.
Yeah, because certain things aren't inherently good or bad, but they're abused and used as a tool of oppression. Right. And that's where the issue comes in.
Well, money is amoral.
Right.
You hear people misquote the scripture all the time. Well, God said the love of money is the root of all evil.
Right. And I got a shirt. I named it that just to have that conversation. Right. People often try to like go at you, but oftentimes I don't even exchange. I'll just say, okay.
Right. So it's you have a much harder job than I do. You and all your young colleagues.
Oh, in the age of Google?
I don't know what age y'all are, but
no,
we used to be able to preach to people and they listen and say, amen, go pastor, go.
No, now that thing is getting challenged. No, but I mean, I feel like that's a good thing though, because it keeps you honest. It keeps you like,
well, I've always believed this and I tried to do it. I don't know if I've done a good job of it. I would rather have an informed people than a brainwashed people.
Yeah, 100%. And that's evident in how you approach it, because there it can be presented in a way where you're telling people what to think, right. There are certain foundational principles, but beyond that,
right
here or even in foundational principles, there are different thoughts, let's just say.
Absolutely.
So it's to say, okay, there's this thought, and this thought. based on everything that I understand, I believe it's like this, but I can't tell you to believe that. That's up to you to determine, where it falls. But to present,
right.
Well,
that's what I've always taught, especially when it comes to doctrine. I've always taught whatever the gamut is on that particular thing.
Yeah.
And then I would share with them how I got to the place where I am at. Because I believe if people develop their ability to think, then they have a tool that they can literally use anywhere they are. But if they develop your thoughts, then it may be good and it may be a wonderful life. But at the end of the day, when it comes time for them to have to participate in something where they have to think for themselves, they'll be limited.
Yeah, and I think that's critical because it's like, it's so many, as you would say, parrots today. But it's like, okay, I can hear something and you may agree or disagree with it. Most times I'm going to disagree. Just
well, I mean, again, some people are easy targets.
Yeah.
Okay. I hear a black person come on Fox. I don't even have to listen to them.
Right.
I know what they're going to say. And so I'm waiting for that one person to come on with a new thought. Doesn't even have to agree with me. It can just blast me, but have a thought.
Yeah. It's like, not that I'm just a contrarian, but it's like, oh no, this is just what people are saying. If somebody said that, sounded good, everybody rolling with it. But I'm like, no, let's break this down.
Right. And I appreciate my colleagues because they've had to put up with me for 40 years.
Yeah.
And maybe because of how God brought me into the family, I could never be satisfied with what anybody said.
No, 100%. And that's kind of like one of the challenges of this social media age. Is like, okay, something comes out, somebody likes that, like, yeah, man, that sounds really good, and then everybody's just running with that thing, not even understanding the thought process behind it, the validity of it, or whatever. And I'm always the dude who's just like, nah.
Well, see, again, it is much easier to be a Republican or a Democrat or independent than have to do all of the work it takes to find out what all this stuff is about.
Yeah.
All right. So it's much easier to say that I'm of this or I'm of that. It's much easier to be a follower.
Yeah.
Than it is to be an engager.
That's why I'm just like, I'm nothing in anything. I'm nothing. I believe this because of this. I believe this because of this. It's like, I don't know. And maybe that's the way we was raised, or maybe that's just the way I am, a combination of the both. I just can't go with something if I don't have, like, if there's not a reason behind it.
Right. And that's what that conversation on the call hit me so hard, because, God has given me a keen sense of discernment all of my ministry. It didn't take away my naivete during when I was naive, or it didn't take away sometimes when I was just totally blind. But he gave me a good sense of discernment. But the one thing he know will get me is just real simple logic.
Yeah, logic.
Real simple, real simple logic. And so that'll get me, okay? And when I heard our medical expert on yesterday say, this is my medical opinion. This is my this. This is my that. I don't know what the long-term effects of the vaccine is going to be, but I know what COVID is doing. It's killing us every day. Yeah. I was like, oh, please don't make it that plain.
Yeah. He said, I'm not afraid of the vaccine. I'm afraid of the virus. Yeah. Like, oh, wait.
And that was the second time I had heard that. And I'm like, God, what are you doing? What are you doing? Because at some point, as I shared on the maybe the previous one of the other podcasts, and we're going to have, in the next few weeks, we're going to have several conversations here on the podcast as well as with our congregation, just to have some dialogue like we get to do, and I've been able to do with the medical experts to see where people are. And I'm like, okay, Lord, do I have this obligation and this responsibility?
Yeah, and that's the question.
And in my brain, and I'll say it so the church will hear it already, in my brain I have these two narratives. Leader, lamb. We know what happens to the lamb.
Yeah, we know what happens to the lamb.
And so I'm like, okay, Lord, and it's not leader to the world or to the city of Cleveland or to the community. I don't have that burden no more. But I do feel that those people who God has given us to serve, if they have a question and if this will get them to a place of healing, I have an obligation to serve.
Yeah, and I think there's integrity in that, in the sense that there are conversations with medical experts. There are, you know what I'm saying? Like all things are considered. It's not just like, oh no, I'm not taking no vaccine. I got faith. Da, da, da. Like, I mean, not saying not. You know what I'm saying? I believe in you know what I'm saying.
Well, see, faith is so important. And I always hear people criticize people based on their faith, which is such an unfair challenge. And I remember my little brother-in-law, when he was going through his thing before he passed with cancer. And we had a lot of conversations, and he would text me every day because he lived in South Carolina. And he was probably the one person I talked to about dying in my lifetime of serving people. That was the most powerful to me when it came to that question about faith and believing God for healing over and against medicine and all kind of things. And he was telling me, he says, they don't understand how much faith I have. It's taken much more faith for me to go through this than I ever needed to do anything else.
Wow.
And he said, the thing that my faith is doing is let me talk with you, share with you, believe God for my healing. But every day my body is on fire. And so, I shared that at his home going. And in all of my years of doing ministry, when people will argue about faith over fear and those kind of things, I'm saying, wow, Lord, you spoke the most theology and the most I've ever heard from a person, from someone who was dying.
Yeah.
Talking about their faith and how much they trusted God, believed God, and how prepared they were to be with him. And it was just incredible. I don't think the vaccine is in that sense, but I think that the sense that it's in is the potential to begin a prevention process so that we're not infecting each other every time we come near each other. Because that's the thing we're living with now, is we don't know who has asymptomatic. We don't know. And so as I wrestle with this, information is power.
Yeah. Well.
And the information is becoming overwhelming. And then after I left our church and our connected family, which I'll probably be a part of a group that speaks to a broader community, but I don't feel that obligation the way I have in the past. And I will probably come to that point as this progresses and we get closer, because, based on everything I'm hearing, we're still a distance away from having access to the vaccine, unless something changes. We do have some advocates for some good reasons that are trying to do some things, but and I'm very comfortable when our time comes to make that choice at that moment. Well, probably would have made it before that moment, but
right.
I just believe that, there's going to be an intervention. God's going to do something. And everybody has the answer in their own heart, mind, and spirit. Is God doing it through miracles?
Yeah.
Is he doing it through medicine and science? Or is he doing it through the natural body process of healing?
But I guess that's always my question. What constitutes a miracle? Is healing, is being healed in and of itself, is that a miracle? Is it the means that determines it? Or is it the outcome?
Well, for healing to occur, the outcome has to be there.
No, I'm saying, like, okay, if I'm healed, I'm saying, is the outcome of healing in and of itself the miracle?
Just depends upon your state of physical being.
Yeah, I'm saying, like, if I'm if I'm afflicted with this thing that's taking me out,
Yeah.
and I'm healed, let's take the means of healing. Let's take like the particular method off the table. If I'm healed, in my mind, that's a miracle.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, whether that came from this, or this, at the end of the day, I'm saying that God was the source.
Oh, no.
And the channel was irrelevant.
Okay. See, and that's all. And again, I was sharing with some pastors this week. You know, when you have a clear philosophy of ministry and theology of ministry, everything flows from there. So that's always been my belief, which is why I say those 3 ways of healing. God is responsible for all 3. All right. Whether it's miraculous, that powerful intervention that had nothing to do with man, humanity, or anything, and we know it was God's power. Or medicine and science comes in with what they do, which I still believe comes from God, regardless of what that person believes. See, when God says subdue the earth, all right, everything that was ever given to man is in the earth.
Mm-hmm.
Through knowledge, through discovery, all right, science, medicine, and I know there's this big war between science and Christianity or science and religion, which I don't understand. It seems how God is all-knowing. He is knowledge.
Right.
And I don't think Christians have to be afraid of knowledge. I don't think God says, come to me, check your brain at the door, and I will lead you. No. So God heals through miracles, through medicine, technology, science, and through natural things. You know, your mother, so far, we take all this natural stuff, and I don't take no flu shot.
Right.
You know, now COVID seems to be a little bit different.
Yeah.
So it may require something different.
Right.
It may require an intervention for me different from what I've allowed to come into my body in the past. 67. Well, when I was a kid, I probably got all the vaccines because I remember a little sugar cube. I remember, I don't remember some of that stuff. Your mother remembers a lot of it. I don't remember. I just know it was days when they say, you're getting a vaccine today. And I'm like, I ain't going.
Yeah. No, we've had to get shots at least up through like middle school. I don't know any ones after that.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah. So it was always interesting.
Yeah. I mean, but, we winding down, but the one of the dominant conversations today is this whole faith versus fear.
Oh, absolutely.
And
I taught it 2 weeks ago. I taught a lesson on that, so maybe we need to make sure we send that out again. But
yeah,
I taught a lesson on that a couple of weeks ago because, again, the two, it's really strange to me how, and people who live by faith only, meaning that, where we stand on medicine, we don't take medicine.
No,
right?
Yeah.
Okay, but I've had several surgeries.
Right.
All right, and I've had, what do you call it, when they, anesthesia.
Yeah.
When they put you to sleep, when they do the surgeries and things. But I always come to my faith first.
Right.
And I've learned that some attacks on my body are supernatural.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But then I've learned some attacks are natural.
Okay.
So if it's in the natural, do I need some rest? Do I need something for a headache, which I rarely ever get or rarely ever take?
Mm-hmm.
Do I need something for whatever? I got Band-Aids on my hand right now. I cut my hand on the door yesterday. But these didn't require stitches or sutures or anything, and it's going to heal.
Right.
And so, but I always let people, especially adults, children I spend a lot of time with, but adults, I'm comfortable with you believing what you're determined to believe because God gave you that free will.
Yeah, 100%. It's just to the point, gathering, not gathering, there's just a lot of.
Well, I've been criticized for not gathering. I mean, that's been a discussion for 9 months now. And I've never closed our church.
Mm-hmm.
In that sense, we still do all of our community outreach. We figured out ways to do our graduation program, birthdays, Christmas. We're having a Christmas giveaway. And we did a Thanksgiving giveaway.
Yeah.
We're going to do a big major food giveaway in the next week or so. And so we've done all of the service. We've served families homegoing celebrations, 50 or less, unfortunately. We've streamed the rest. We have the technology capabilities. But as far as gathering with large groups of people, I just didn't sense that was, number one, necessary. And people who do, I know many churches are gathering. But what I want to hear from them is their spiritual reasons for gathering.
Okay.
But if I hear my religious freedom, I ain't got nothing to do with that. This ain't about no doggone religious freedom.
Yeah.
If you gather for religious freedom, I would be I would go to a church where they're gathering because the pastor said the Spirit of the Lord came upon me and said that we need to gather the next 6 weeks because he's going to do this or that. I might consider that much more than I would for somebody over here talking about some religious freedom. That ain't got nothing to do with God.
Yeah.
Those aren't my, see again, that's why I try to talk to black folk. Those aren't my arguments. Okay, those aren't there's so many things that aren't my arguments.
Right.
Okay, religious freedom, I'm fighting for daily don't shoot me police. I'm fighting for folk who need food, employment, a second chance. Challenge, yes. New opportunities at career, educational, job readiness, whatever those things are. Those are my challenges. That kind of crap they be talking about, that ain't what's killing my people, what's hurting my community.
Yeah.
Religious freedom. We talking about, can we go here or over there without being scrutinized? The heck I'm going to be fighting for religion. I can go preach, and if they lock me up, I'll preach in jail. How do I know?
Yeah.
Because I did it.
It's just I just don't appreciate the attack. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm saying, let's just be honest. We live in a country where whenever I believe something different, I'm attacked for it.
Oh, absolutely.
And, at the same time though, freedom is always freedom, not religious freedom, now just freedom in general. Freedom is the question. But like, I mean, we're basically, making decisions that affect other people. That's the question. Like, I don't need you affecting me. I don't need you trying to come up on me. I don't need you, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know.
Well, see, I always look at it like this, and I know we wind it down.
Yeah.
I always look at it like this. How big is your God?
No. And that's the argument. That's the other side's argument. Like,
Yeah,
would Jesus gather?
Well,
Jesus would heal. Like,
we don't know.
Yeah, I'm just saying that's what people say.
Yeah, would Jesus gather? That's
not gathering is operating in the spirit of fear. Like, no, it's being responsible. Wisdom and faith are not mutually exclusive.
Yeah. Well, when we determined not to gather, based on the potential of people catching the virus, I was in a different position than everybody.
What you mean?
2017. And I was, your ministry was blossoming and things were going well. And your mama's ministry is blossoming. And I asked God, I say, okay, has my season come to an end? I do that about every 6 months. But anyway, I was doing it when I was 35 and 40. So it's nothing new. He knows me. All right. And I said, well, if it hasn't, then show me something to deal with discipleship. Because I remember how powerful discipleship was when I was away in those men's lives. I said, show me something. I said, I spent this much time with these guys. I was with them every day. And we developed some powerful discipleship things. And so I was just asking God. And that's when he gave me connected.
Yeah.
He said the next major move of the kingdom is going to be house church. And so some friends of mine, when I shared with them, said, well, how you going to train the leaders? I'm not training no leaders. That's the model we have. I said, I'm not training leaders. Every house has somebody who tells everybody what to do. Or it's chaos. Okay. All right. Somebody's running that house, even if it's the newborn baby. All right. So I'm going to get that person. and share the information with them and let them share it with the people in their house. So when this thing hit, our people were like, wow, Pastor. I'm like, nope, I was not prophetic. I was not this or that. It's just that God had already told us as a church that we would be worshiping at home.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we knew no pandemic or nothing like that, but we were prepared.
Right.
And so the revelation I received from God gave me a peace and a comfort in the spirit realm, because in the natural, I want my folk in here.
Yeah.
But in the spirit world, God had already told me this. And so now just think about how strong we're going to be when it comes to evangelism and reaching people when we do start to gather again, whatever form that's going to look like, because we're going to be so much more powerful. Why? Because people have spent 9 months worshiping in their house.
Yeah, man. I can only imagine. And I've seen that first day, man, it's going to be, man.
Right.
That first day is going to be
yeah. And so, yeah.
Shoot, I'm liable to start hooping.
They'll like you more. But so that my the different arguments people have, the different criticisms they have, because again, my philosophy of ministry has always been clear to me. My theology of ministry has always been clear. I've always operated in faith. I've been a faith person, a miracle person, a charismatic person. And so a lot of people didn't know it a long time because they thought we were a Baptist church, not understanding that we were a kingdom church. Long before books were written and all this stuff. Go back in our sermon series in the 90s. And I was just picked up some of that stuff, looking at some of that stuff, and it was like, wow, we were preaching kingdom back then, Lord. So doesn't make us better than anybody else or more anointed, all that crap. But it just says that God will give you the direction you need if you follow him. And our congregation has been ultimate. Just the generosity, the support they've given has been unbelievable.
Yeah.
The love they've shown has been unbelievable. I do know that God, at some point, we will gather again. Fellowship is important, but it will not be the fellowship that we left. It will be different.
Yeah. And there's and that's not a bad thing.
Not at all. Not at all.
And, there are some maybe overlooked at the time. Obviously, God's going to get glory out of any situation. But a lot of things have been happening, and maybe some people aren't considering it right now. In hindsight, it's 2020. So looking back, you'll be able to see it. But there has been some things that have been happening as a result that will, end up being a blessing, that will end up, helping things move forward,
right, as
far as that type of thing goes. So, it hasn't been all bad.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well,
we're getting there. But before we close, we gotta talk about the boys.
Oh man.
Not the show. But they getting it done.
9-3. Man. This has been unbelievable. Yeah. Unbelievable. And Baker Mayfield played.
Yeah, man, I gotta salute, because when he ain't getting it done, I'm saying it. And
well, no, what I'm saying is every week they were winning, and he still was getting hated on.
No, 100%. And I really ain't been ragging on him like that.
No, I'm not talking about you. I'm just saying in general. Every week they win, and his performance wasn't enough, and it was a challenge. And so I think last week his wife told him, "Get your butt out there and play," because he went out there and everything he'd been doing wrong, he did right. And I said, because his wife is always in the commercials with him, so I said, she must have finally said, "Quit trying to cook, quit trying to clean the stadium, and get your butt out there and play football."
Yeah, he plays some football.
And that would be the best thing that could happen, though, is that he come into that.
Oh man, 100%. I'm rooting for him. I want him to be great. Like I want to be on I want a winning championship football team. Like, you know what I'm saying? And if he can get it done, then let's get it done. Shoot.
Absolutely. We got Pittsburgh and Baltimore coming up. So
yeah, we got Monday night.
I already got to wear the Pittsburgh
they here?
jersey for Ray, and He think I'm dodging. Ray, I'm not dodging you at all. It's just we got to make time to get
Baltimore coming here on Monday.
And I'll wear it on the show so that way everybody will see that they beat us the one time, and I'm hoping they're not going to beat us the second time.
Dang. If it wasn't for I would have gone to that. We would have had to. We seen the Thursday night games last year. Yeah, I would have loved to go there. I've been to Monday Night Football a long time ago. We was playing the Rams. Yeah, this is back in like Marshall Faulk, Aeneas Williams. This was a while ago. But I remember I went to a Monday Night Football game. But that other team, they took that L.
Yeah, they did. That was a good thing.
So technically, there's still a chance to win a division. They haven't clinched the division yet. No. I think the only team who clinched the division is like the Chiefs or something.
Wow, that would be So if they beat Baltimore and Pittsburgh, we clinch the division.
I'm not sure if there's like other.
Because we would be 1-1 with Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh beat Baltimore.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they haven't the Chiefs right as New Orleans and the Chiefs.
I mean, we got to play them, and they got to play Baltimore one time. It'll be interesting. All right, let's get out of here.
Time is running.
Hey, thank y'all for being such a great audience. Just chopping it up with my son. If it blesses you, thank you. If it challenges you, fire back at us.
Yeah, call in and send a message. We'll be happy to address that thing.
Absolutely.
All right. See y'all next time.